This is the Knowledge Graph Insights podcast, episode number 36. The widespread adoption of semantic technologies has created a variety of linked data resources around the web. Until recently, you had to learn semantic tools to access that data. The arrival of LLMs, with their conversational interfaces and ability to translate natural language into knowledge graph queries, combined with the new Model Context Protocol, has empowered semantic web experts like Emeka Okoye to build tools that let any developer surf the semantic web.
Welcome to the Knowledge Graph Insights podcast, where experts on knowledge graphs and the semantic web share their wisdom with the digital and business communities. Our mission is to demystify and democratize knowledge graph technology and practices to make the benefits of knowledge graphs and semantic technology accessible to all. And now, here's your host, Larry Swanson.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode number 36 of the Knowledge Graph Insights podcast. I am really delighted today to welcome to the show my good friend, Emeka Okoye. Emeka is a really interesting ontology practitioner and engineer and knowledge engineer. And he's operating now at the intersection of knowledge engineering and generative AI, which I think is a really interesting intersection. That's what we're going to talk about today. So welcome, Emeka. Tell the folks a little bit more about what you're up to these days.
Oh, well, thank you, bringing me to this awesome podcast. I'm proud to be here. I have been involved in, knowledge engineering, or more like AI. We need to understand that knowledge engineering is important for AI because it creates the knowledge layer. So that's where we have knowledge graphs. There's been a lot of tribalism in AI. The neural nets on one side and the symbolic AI on the other side. So I am in for the convergence. I've always believed in the convergence. Funny enough, I've been teaching and mentoring young ones on, both sides of the divide since 2016, in the Nigerian data science space. So no surprises that, generative AI boomed and, I needed to find reasons, to see how we can integrate both sides, because that's what AI is all about, the best of both worlds, best of neural nets and then best of symbolic AI. That's the future. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So that foundation, I needed to be there. And that's why I've been working on both sides. So from knowledge graphs to AI agents.
That's so funny. We didn't talk about this before I hit record, but right before we started this interview, I posted a thing to LinkedIn about exactly that, about the importance of, it was specifically about the need for executive education around hybrid AI architectures, because they're just, all they have is like Silicon Valley hype. That's all the information they have. But more to the point, like your hybrid practice, well, first of all, I've known you for years now, and it just occurred to me, I don't really know your academic background, but it sounds like you're equally grounded in machine learning and knowledge representation stuff. Have you always pursued both?
I'm a geologist. That's the only qualification I do have. Immediately, I found love with personal computers. So, once the PC era boomed, I just went in programming, So, in Nigeria, Nigeria was once, one of the biggest software countries in the world. At a point in time, our software houses were building financial and banking systems, the whole of North America, we are using, and some part of Europe. So we are that big. So when the internet came, we embraced it that early. I was already building internet protocols using Visual Basic. And not long after, I created, I co-founded the first startup in Nigeria. And then after that, I worked with probably one of the earliest semantic web brands in the world, which is OpenLink Software. I became, the chief technical officer in the whole of Africa. So I was with OpenLink Software when, Tim Berners-Lee came up with the semantic web thing, and Aura and Co. coming up with agents, So I started earlier, thanks to my mentor, my boss then, Kingsley then, who kind of like, mentored me throughout, and made me understand that the future was, semantic web. So, I dove right into it. And can you believe this? We were already creating knowledge graph before Google called it knowledge graph. I had created one for a client, which is Music in Africa, by 1990, by 2012, 2011, 2012.
Well, that's right before they introduced the term knowledge graph with that's so interesting because, and the RDF and the OWL and all the semantic web tech goes back 10 years before that. So that gap between the dawn of the semantic web and the coining of the term knowledge graph, you were just in there doing it.
Yes. Yeah. We were already doing it. And remember, I came from a company that, is on top of this technology, who is there. This is my former boss, Anton today. Even after I left OpenLink Software, he was there to guide me in. So most of what I know, in semantic technology comes from Kingsley, So we were already doing this, So my understanding of the technology is very sound. Academia-wise, I didn't do anything much in that regards, on the technology. But, I'm hoping I'll do research in the future because I noticed as I'm trying to come into Europe, I noticed that there are a lot of research-based jobs, and, AI is something I would love to devote research time.
Yeah, and I know a lot of those people, and there's not a specific track yet around the hybrid AI stuff. There may be, I hope you get a chance to do that. But hey, that's what I want to really focus on today. So your background, your RDF Explorer project makes even more sense to me now. I just want to say real quickly about that. Emeka and I meet like once or twice a week in our Data Worthy Collective, which we co-organize with some other folks. And I was just embarrassed that I had totally missed this awesome piece you wrote for LinkedIn about RDF Explorer. And then you just happened to mention it in one of our meetings, and I went and read it, and I was like, whoa, that's amazing. We got to talk about this. So here we are, finally, I get to share the RDF Explorer with folks. So tell me, well, I think one thing I've been a little bit surprised by is like that not everybody in the knowledge graph and semantic tech space is familiar with MCP. They kind of maybe know the acronym and what it stands for, but can you talk just a little bit about the Model Context Protocol?
All right. So the Model Context Protocol, which was created by Anthropic, sometimes in November 2024, it's a protocol. It's a standardized protocol which allows AI agents to connect and interact with external tools, and different data sources in a simplified manner. It's that simplicity that is the attraction, So it removes a lot of stress that comes to, connecting different data sources to it. Now, just to give you an idea, what we are talking about. So you have, before MCP, we had all these RAG or agentic RAG solutions. It means that you hand code every individual sources to pull that data to the language models. Okay. Now, so just imagine that you have something like 10,000 external tools or, 10,000 external sources, So that means you will hand code each one of them, and that comes like to 10 million implementations. But with MCP, you only do it once. So it becomes 10 it becomes 10,000 implementation rather than 10 million. Okay. So that's what it does. It automatically takes away the reality of us hand coded integration. That's one. Second thing is that it communicates with our tools, the communication between the language models and our tools happen with natural language and in structured formats. Like, for instance, our APIs. Our APIs understand structured format. So what happens is that MCP now turns natural language into the structure format using language models, so that the communication between these external tools becomes so easy. Remember, the transaction starts with the natural language prompt, which is now the new UI and the new UX. So that ease of communication between the language models and the external tools and the external data is what MCP does simply.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
And as soon as
so it removes the need for custom integration. It removes the complexity, and it accelerates deployment quickly and easily.
Yeah. And a perfect example of that accelerated deployment is like, you learn about this and you go like, well, there should be an RDF service out there. Let's build RDF Explorer. So can you tell me, like, so yes. I guess I kind of probably oversimplified that, but from your insight about how MCP, like, well, first, the fact that it's a protocol like TCP/IP or HTTP or something, and you talked about how that simplifies the communication and connection process. So you take that insight and you go like, okay, here's an RDF service for folks. Can you talk a little bit about what RDF Explorer is and how it helps people?
All right. So before I go into that, let me just explain briefly one of the motivations about this. You know, before I started working with OpenLens software, I was a developer. So coming in as a developer, coming in to semantic technology was very hard. You know, we came from a relational database. You know, we see the world differently. You understand? But semantic technology is about the real world. It's about our worldview. It's about the philosophy, the culture, the norms. It's a whole lot. That's not what you see in regular software development. You know, so it was hard for a lot. So that challenge is still there. Learning curve is very steep. It was for me, you know, before I finally got into it. So it's been a problem in the semantic web. You know, tooling was a big problem. So once I embraced MCP, I now saw an opportunity to lessen the stress coming into embracing semantic technology. And that was the motivation for me to create the Explorer. I started the Explorer. Basically, the RDF Explorer is a model context protocol server that provides conversational interface for the exploration and analysis of RDF turtle-based knowledge graph in two modes: local file mode or Sparkle endpoint mode. So this server facilitates communication between AI applications and language models and RDF data. So making graph exploration and analyzing graph data, you know, through Sparkle queries. So this is a perfect tool for all sorts around knowledge graph research, data preparation, data understanding, and so on. This project didn't start by me creating Explorer. It started by me creating a tool to create ontologies and creating knowledge graph. Yes, because this, like I said, the learning graph was steep. Tooling is a problem in the semantic web community. So when I started on that, it became so easy. Oh yeah, it was so easy. I mean, it's just like God brought us the MCP specifically for semantic technology. So it was easy for me to, pass a prompt with sample data and sample instruction. and it will create ontologies. Now, I am not saying, and I'm not promoting vibe ontology. You know, I think that discussion has started in the community. We can't vibe ontology creation. So I need to emphasize on this. And, you know, you have to be an experienced ontologist, you know, for you to create something meaningful. But just to say that the tools that will make our work easier is now available, and we can take advantage of that. So I started building ontologies, and it was easy. And I now realize that the work needed to create something that, you know, I could share publicly would take time. So I pivoted to Explorer first. What I could quickly showcase the opportunity, you know, in using MCP. So that's why the RDF Explorer came up. So you have to have a ready-made data or any public linked open data instance. Yeah, you can use it to browse through it. And, you know, you can do, it does a lot of things, but, you know, I restricted the function so that I could focus on, you know, the beauty of that synergy between MCP and knowledge graph. So you can run queries, you know, execute at any endpoint, get statistics about graphs, count the triples, do text search, do a head check, and, you know, basic. So for the release version now, it's just this basic function so that I can take my time to build other functions to it. So that's what.
It's like an awesome start, though, I have to say, because like one of the first things that when you get interested in linked open data, the first thing you do, you just end up like at some Sparkle query generator. And then you're like, oh crap, I gotta learn Sparkle, but you have a conversational interface. So you can just immediately show the benefits of the semantic tech stack, linked open data, and all the stuff that comes with that. And it sounds like, how many people have experimented with it yet? Or how much have you done with it, and how much have other people done with it?
A lot, you know, I think I counted like close to 60 people who are using it. Because I installed it in a whole lot of places and people downloaded. But the most interesting thing, because it's an MCP server, the most interesting thing is that when you are writing agents with AI agents with MCP clients, it becomes a server inside the agent. So all you are saying is, pull this data from this knowledge graph instance. You don't need Sparkle. So in your agent code, you don't need to write Sparkle. You just need to write your query in natural language. You see that? So they don't know, they just know that the data is a knowledge graph. They don't know anything about RDF. They don't know anything about Sparkle. So all they are saying is, since this data is a knowledge graph, please, I don't know whether, I don't want to say it in abstract, but let me say something like this. Okay, so you could say, what's the best treatment? Maybe in that agent interaction, you could ask for, what's the best, please get me the best treatment of the patient's diabetes, you know, from maybe a known link open data instance. And then what the server does is it will now pull all the nodes. So remember that the question is in English language, but it will now be converted to a Sparkle statement that will pull all the nodes, maybe say the insulin therapies, similar patient profiles, research going on, you know, in that area, okay? Because it's all about graph. It's all about graph of context. You understand? This is the beauty thing. So you see, the reason why I'm emphasizing this is that it solves a problem that RAG introduced the bringing of static data from vector database. Static data from vector database cannot be an answer for knowledge. So what MCP does is that in this conversational natural language prompt, it now pulls down the graph with all the context, so that now imagine that we are talking about diabetes, and we can pull information on the latest research on diabetes. So that will form the basis on how the model would respond. It enriches the answers that will come out. Mm-hmm. But the application asking for this does not, or the developer that wrote the application does not know Sparkle, does not know RDF. So that's what the RDF Explorer does.
This is so awesome. We talk all the time in this community about how hard it is to onboard people, and everybody complains about it, but nobody's doing anything until Emeka came along and fixed it with his MCP server. I love this.
We have to thank people, people like you, Aura, Pete, Kingsley, Neil, everyone, because we all talk about it. In our community, we've been talking about this for years. We're all part of the puzzles of the solution. Everybody is.
Yeah.
So I do my own, and
yeah, what I was just saying, I was kind of half joking about that but truly, like, so much of that has been like architectural and really internal nerding out about how to craft. Like, I think of my conversations with like Jan Zossman and Tony Seal and people like that about how to craft these neurosymbolic architectures. But you've kind of like, and this is one of the benefits you've talked about a couple times, is the simplicity that this client server arrangement affords. You just create a server that does a specific thing that, like, hey, you want access to this knowledge graph? Let me give you a natural language interface to that. Here's some data. Yeah.
The developer that is solving the problem does not understand how a knowledge graph looks like. He just knows that it's a kind of database of answers. If you post in a question, it will come out with an answer.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is I think about that, like, I've done a lot of like content modeling and data modeling stuff over the years, and like I've always been like the designer, kind of getting from the conceptual models and then sitting down with an engineer to work out the implementation model. And often, almost always, it's been a relational database, but who cares? Ultimately, you don't care if you can execute on the needs articulated in that conceptual model. If it's NoSQL or a relational database or it's triple store, who cares? Quite literally. And so you're just like, you've taken out that who cares part. You're just like, really, I don't care. Here, you want this data? It just happens to be in a knowledge graph. Come to my MCP server and you can get it. That's the idea, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how powerful it is. It's really, for me, it's very powerful. I haven't started talking about, a whole lot of benefits, but yeah.
Well, yeah, and you really are just getting started, because a lot of the obvious thing about LLMs is their conversational interface, and you're like, great, let's do that. Okay, that'll be the interface for this thing. But there's so many other benefits. Like, you've talked, like, there's been this talk for years of the ostensible failure of the semantic web. We know that it's pretty well entrenched in a number of places, but this seems like a way to just sidetrack that whole or just avoid that whole conversation. Like, you don't have to care about the semantic web. I can just get you this nicely structured data that's going to help your AI system work better, because of all the things that we know about the benefits of an ontologically driven, structured knowledge product. Is that wasn't really a question, but I'm curious.
Yeah. No. It's just funny that people are trying to separate knowledge graph from AI. I mean, it's the brain. If unfortunately, a lot of people who don't understand what knowledge is through intelligence. People should be worried, because We don't think in numbers. We don't think in numbers. People need to embrace the knowledge graph because it's brain-like. It maps like the brain. It connects data. It connects the meaning. It connects the context, and it's very important. Context is what they all try to do in similarity search with vectors. I mean, it's called similarity search for a reason. Similar.
Exactly. Yeah, you know what's interesting about that to me is that like the neural network side, it's so powerful, and it's based on like if you just look at like a picture of like how neurons work with you, that's the foundation of that famous 1945 paper where you're trying to mimic human neural activity with a computer. There's sort of that, and I think unless you dive a little deeper into it, it's hard to see the difference. Like the conceptual difference between using that kind of structure to learn stuff versus using another kind of graph structure to ensconce knowledge. It's not like it's even subtle. It's a huge difference, but I think a lot of people have trouble teasing out. I mean, can you talk maybe a little bit, because I love that you're at the forefront of integrating like neural tech and symbolic tech. Have you run into any, like, do you have to explain it to people, or do you just show them the benefits of having done it?
I have to explain it and I have to show it. Like I said, and which, you can confirm, I've been talking about this AI tribalism for a long time. And I said it's going to have some implication. We've been talking about this for like 4 or 5 years. You open a website and the next thing you hear is AI, then under it you see ML, under it you see DL. I mean, that can't be true. Something, very wrong. So a lot of people came into AI thinking that AI is all machine learning, all deep learning. You understand? And that's the foundation of disaster. So you can't separate knowledge. You can't say, let's bring knowledge to AI. No, AI is based on knowledge. You're not doing any favor. It's not like you have a choice. AI is from knowledge, So they're not, they need to understand that intelligence is at the center of symbolic AI.
As you talk about that, I'm reminded of like a number of people have used the analogy of Kahneman's thinking fast and slow, like the neural stuff being the fast side, the systems one, and the knowledge stuff being the systems two. But like a human brain rarely does either of those separately. They're always working with each other. And that's where, and to this point though, like to what you were just saying, like everybody's like, oh, LLMs can fix everything and that's all we need. And it's like, actually, this knowledge stuff is important too.
LLM is all about human writing and human thinking. So, when we write, we think well. And that's that, and that's what you see in the writing. That's what LLM has taken in. But because they can predict on our human thinking, again, human thinking, because it comes from writing, it looks as if they are intelligent, but they are not. They are actually smart. They are actually smart, yes. They get into problem when intelligence is needed. And they don't have the skills of zero cognition. That is, they cannot make anything out of nothing.
Yeah, they have to. Well, that's their problem right now, is they just need bigger and bigger learning sets to do anything. But hey, Emeka, I could talk about this stuff all day with you, and we will continue it soon. But we're coming up on time today. Is there anything last, though, that you would like to revisit from the conversation or share with people before we wrap up?
Yeah, I could talk about, some of the learning points from one of my biggest takeaway from this is the lean protocol of MCP, made everything look minimal. It removed all the complexity, and also showed the power of our words, is conversation. You understand? The language, So we need to, understand that language models are good servers for language tasks. MCP breaks it down easily for it. So that was, the first thing first. So MCP removed a lot of complexity, in integrating language models and knowledge graph. Something again is the tooling gap. So the tools to create semantic technology solutions is now available easily. Language models can do that because they understand semantic technology. They have been trained on W3C thing. So they have that understanding of the specs. We need MCP to be that interface, to make it easy to create things, that is semantic web related, So that's the beauty of, the MCP and all that. One other thing I haven't mentioned, let me quickly mention, which was in the part where I was creating the MCP server for creating ontologies, is that when you now create a data, you can actually, and that one actually blew me. I can actually check the data that I created. Like I have an employee data, employee ontology. So I want to be sure that the data is all right. I can easily query MCP to find out if employee is an organization, because I want to be sure that the ontology was created right. You understand? And if it wasn't created right, I'll get an error message that no, MCP. Now this is the beauty. Employee cannot be an ontology. So I actually created an RDF file where employee is where I made employee an organization, and I put it through MCP, and I said, MCP, please tell me what's wrong with this. There's no way an employee can be an organization. That's easy. Nothing technical. Yes, and I just issued the word, okay, fix it. Employee is a person, that works for an organization. Please help me fix it. And that was it. He fixed the RDF.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's just to tell you how what MCP does for us, with semantic web technology.
Well, it's like, I don't know if we've talked about this specifically, but it comes up. I mean, my whole intent in doing these podcasts is to democratize practice, and at the highest level possible. And if you can sort of make the benefits of semantic tech accessible to any old engineer or architect anywhere in the world, just by giving them a conversational interface to it with RDF Explorer, awesome. That's like democratization on steroids. So thank you. Hey, one very last thing, Emeka. If folks want to follow you or connect online, what's the best place to find you online?
LinkedIn, where I'm comfortable with the community, and I share my knowledge.
Yeah, it's kind of the last social network standing, I think, for people like us, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much, Emeka. I mean, it's always great, and we talk all the time. It was really awesome.
I'm honored being here. Thank God I've made it. I hope to come back, talk more on MCP and other things as well.
Yeah, we'll have to check in a year or two, see what else you've done with it. So yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, thanks so much.
Yes.
For show notes and to sign up for our newsletter, visit our website at knowledgegraphinsights.com, and please rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for listening.